Good morning. It is Sunday, July 14th, 2024. It's 11:10 a.m. on the East Coast. It's Bastille Day, if you're French. 14th of July, Bastille Day. French Revolution. Not going to talk about what happened yesterday in Pennsylvania, but I am going to talk about a couple of site visits that I went on in BC a little over a week ago. Here's the map of British Columbia, Canada. See, Vancouver is down here on the coast, right on the US border. Vancouver Island. Vancouver Island is a big place. Like just imagine how like that's 200 miles, that scale bar. So it's a big island. To get from, Victoria to Port Hardy is a long drive. I don't think a lot of Americans realize how big this place is. Um, so my trip started in Vancouver and I drove over here into this area of the interior of southern BC to visit Westhaven Gold. And then I flew all the way up here. And what's funny about this map of BC does not have the town of Smithers on it. So Smithers is like right here. This is Grand Isle. So this is where the historical copper mining occurred, Grand Isle. This is Babine Lake, and the project is just over here. The project that I went to, NAC from American Eagle Gold, is over here. So it's interesting they don't have Smithers on the map, but Smithers, I mean, by northern BC standards, or central BC standards rather, I mean, Smithers is not a tiny town. It's kind of funny it's not on this map. Anyway, so I'm wearing the American Eagle Gold hat. This is a premium subscriber only video until I make it public. So we start with Westhaven. So those who are not interested in Westhaven, just skip this part. But what I will say is I invite you to keep an open mind. Look at the chart, the Westhaven chart. So this is like a 4-year chart. Stock was $1.20 in 2020. It's 16 cents now. About an 85% drop in the share price. The market cap of Westhaven right now is about $24 million, about 150 million shares out. Company has a few million in cash. They are drilling with one rig currently at the Shovelnose project. And I'm not going to go the whole history of Westhaven. That would take over an hour, but you can go through the presentation yourself. This has been their focus for the last 6 years, the Shovelnose project. They made a big discovery here, a high-grade gold discovery at the south zone at Shovelnose in 2018. And they've drilled out a pretty good area, okay? Vein zone 1. See, here's the timeline. 17.7 meters of 24.5 grams gold, 108 grams silver. That was hole 1814. 2022, they got some more joy at the forget me not zone. This is the best intercept they've had, 23 meters of 37.24 grams per ton gold, 209 grams per ton silver. So, you know, and then last year 12 meters of almost 40 grams. So, and this is over a pretty wide area. I mean, I'll show you the map, but this isn't like drilling the same zone. These are three completely separate zones over a pretty good strike extent. So, you know, you can say whatever you want about Westhaven. You can knock the company for the chart. Obviously, the performance has not been great, but this is a legitimate high grade gold discovery. Like, this is a real project. So this is a real company with a real management team that has put in their own money. They have skin in the game. Um, and they've drilled some really nice intercepts. Okay, and so that's sort of the opportunity here, in my opinion. That obviously the share price is really out of favor here, no doubt about it. I'm not going to sugarcoat the last set of you know uh, results that the company put out were dusters. Just to put it bluntly, it was like they put out like assays for 4 or 5 holes, and they were dusters. So that is why the share price is 16 cents. There's not been a lot of joy out of Westhaven in the last couple of years. All right. And clearly, the market's assessment of the South Zone and the outlined strike extent of vein zone 1 is that it's not big enough to be a mine. That's I mean, they wouldn't have a $24 million market cap if the market thought that this was going to be a gold mine, which is kind of crazy when you think about, this strike extent. I mean, this is like over 4,000 meters. Obviously, it's not all 30 grams per ton gold. There's definitely some lower grade areas or some areas where there's not much gold at all. But pretty safe to say that they've outlined 1 million ounces here. All right, there is a resource on this project. Um, Couple of other details. Again, I'm not gonna go into the whole thing because it would be a long video. But one of the things I learned on the site visit is that Newcrest. So Newcrest was doesn't exist anymore. It was bought by Newmont in 2023. But Newcrest was one of the largest gold producers in the world just a few years ago. Well, Newcrest was very interested in Westhaven around 2021, and they made many visits to Shovelnose during 2021, 2022. And what I learned from management on this site visit a couple weeks ago was that, and this guy, Fraser Macor O'Dale, he used to work for Newcrest, see, general manager of exploration at Newcrest. And now he's a West Haven technical advisor because Newcrest doesn't exist anymore. So what I learned is that Newcrest actually offered to invest in West Haven a couple times, 2021, 2022. Now I don't know the exact details of the offer, but from my understanding, they were interested in a 20% stake and they were willing to pay a premium to the market price at the time. So, I mean, the market price in 2021 ranged from 70 cents to 40 cents. So, I don't know, let's say 55 cents was the average. So, a premium to the market price, I don't know, 65, 70, 75 cents. Um, and West Haven declined it. I don't have the whole story why they declined it, but I think that basically they thought that giving away 20% of the company was too much. Um, and probably Newcrest was going to make some changes to the board and management team, and maybe they didn't want that. So, look, that's ancient history. We can't change the past. The company doesn't even exist anymore. But the fact that Newcrest was even willing to pay 65 cents a share for 20% of West Haven is significant, right? Like that is a significant validation of the company. And here we are at 16 cents. All right. So the real purpose of my visit, this is a company I've followed pretty closely for the last 6 years, since prior to the, whole 18, 14, and 15 in 2018, is to get an idea of what exploration work they're doing across the entire property footprint. And I noticed this news that they put out on June 3rd, um, where they talk about some new exploration targets. Um, and this particular quartz subcrop called Certes, 6 kilometers southeast of the South Zone. So that caught my attention because just looking at the maps, um, here's the South Zone. So here's the really dense area of drilling. South Zone, Forget Me Not Zone, Franz Zone, right? Like all these areas. This has been like this 4,000-meter strike area has been West Haven's main focus. You can see the drilling density. Now they've done some step out drilling without much success, to be frank. Hence the share price performance. But now we have a couple of new, discoveries, and in particular, the Certes one really caught my attention because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to draw a line and say, hold on. I mean, this could be, yeah, it might be faulted a little bit, but this could be the extension, the far southeast extension of vein zone one. And look at the epithermal textures. I mean, this rock looks similar. I mean, obviously, this is found at surface, so it's going to be weathered a bit, but this looks similar to the South Zone. All right. So then they put out this sort of, mini deck on Certes. And I invite you to, review it and understand sort of, the potential here and just how much of a target rich environment Shovelnose is. I mean, this has been only explored by Westhaven, right? This is not some project that was drilled in the 60s and 70s and 80s. There weren't even old timers here in the 1800s, right? Like the gold rush in this area, BC, happened in the river. It was placer mining in the rivers. And the whole idea of this project is where is the bedrock, the hard rock source of that placer gold that was in all these rivers that caused these gold rushes in the 1850s and 1860s, right? And nobody, there wasn't a lot of outcrop here. In fact, there's a huge amount of cover in this area, and when West Haven drills, they have to drill usually through 50 to 80 meters of cover. Um, there's not a lot of outcrop at Shovelnose. So the old timers couldn't see shit, right? And it's kind of funny even that it took forest fires and then logging in 2020 and 2021 to uncover this, which is basically outcrop, subcrop called the Franz. And this is high grade gold at surface. But this was walked over, this was missed for years. I mean, West Haven had this property since 2011, and they found this in 2020 in 2020. So it took them 10 years to uncover what was sitting at surface because there was pretty heavy vegetation and this area hadn't been logged. And then when it was logged and there was some fires, then all of a sudden this whole area became visible and boom, you got this stuff right at surface. I mean, look at this. Classic, classic textures of the epithermal gold. I mean, look at this, beautiful. And they've done a lot of assaying in this area, this Franz zone at the northwest of the project area. And there's pretty extensive zones of 30 grams per ton gold right at surface. Now, look, it's not massive. It's not gonna probably be a mine by itself, but this is this is pretty good areas. I mean, it could be like 10 meters by 5 meters of 30 grams per ton gold just sitting at surface. And they've drilled, they've drilled, and I showed previously that in was it 2023 they drilled a hole at Franz, 12 meters, 39.4 grams per ton gold, 51 grams silver. And again, that's sitting at surface. So anyway, I digress. So there's a lot of room for new discoveries across the property package. And West Haven's a little junior that most of the time has just been drilling with one rig. They've had a couple rigs at different times when they were better funded, but right now when they're surviving on $2 million, $3 million financings, sort of piecemeal financings in a pretty unfavorable market for explorers, they're using one rig, right? And so the problem is they have too many targets. That's actually a problem. Costs money to drill, costs time to drill, and most targets aren't going to work out. You're going to drill, you know, the target's not going to prove up, and you're going to have to move on, right? So Certes is what caught my attention, and this, in particular, this diagram, it just makes sense. Like sometimes you just see a map, you see the target, you see the rocks, and it just makes sense. And so this is one of those that just makes sense. So what do they need to do here? Here's the rock that I actually picked up. I have a picture of it. There it is. And you see their map. Certes is not even on this map because it's not been proved up to be a full-scale target yet. More work has to be done. So first job is trenching this area. Put a couple of trenches in, prove up the actual drill targets, and then drill. That's pretty much it. So they will most likely be moving a rig down to Certes by the end of August, but not drilling it yet. Okay. And also, there were a lot of other targets like this one, the CSAMT target 3, I didn't even know about. And Westhaven just drilled a hole here with assays pending, and they seem to like what they see. But this is gold. It's epithermal gold, low sulfidation epithermal gold. So unless it's a banger 30, 40 grams per ton, you're not going to have VG. You're not going to know, right? Like, the XRFs don't work well, with gold. So they need to get the assays back. So there's a number of targets that they're not even really talking about, and they won't talk about it until they hit. And so that's the interesting thing here, like this is a legitimate company with a real project with 1 million ounces of gold with some very high grade zones. And yeah, I'm not saying that $24 million is a nothing market cap. I mean, in the junior mining sector, that means that you are a real company. But it just seems to me that they're not getting much credit at all, right? And so all it will take is one hit in one of these new zones, these new target areas, and it will be game on again. But until then, we just wait, right? And a lot of shareholders appear to be capitulating and giving up on this company. So from a contrarian standpoint, it is an interesting stock to have on your radar, in my opinion. Okay. And I'll just leave it at that. Let's see what comes from Certes and some of these other targets. I'm sure we'll be getting news um, from the company shortly. All right. So we'll just leave it at that and move on to American Eagle Gold. Great contrarian idea to have on your radar. All right. So I drive back from Vancouver, spend the night, go to the airport the next morning, and we fly all the way up here. Longer flight than I thought. BC is big. Like Canada's big, guys. Like Canada's big. Just look at this 200 miles, right? So BC as a province is more than 1,000 miles tall. Canada's big. So we go up here, and now here's the American Eagle chart. So American Eagle Gold AE.V, AE on the TSX Venture, $92 million market cap, currently at 69 cents per share. And you can see the company has had a tremendous last year. Actually, they've had a tremendous 2024. Why has American Eagle had a tremendous 2024? Well, the company's drilling, they've put 17 holes of theirs into the Nat Copper Gold Porphyry project in Babine region of BC, and they're starting to show some scale, right? The drilling is starting to prove up some substantial scale, and they ended 2023 on a high note with hole 17, which was like 300 meters of over 1% copper equivalent. So it's rare, being the porphyry guy that I am now, it is rare to find these copper gold porphyry projects with sizable intercepts of 1% plus grade copper equivalent. Most porphyries are 0.4%, 0.5% copper equivalent. 0.6% is considered to be good. 0.7% is excellent. 1% is world class, right? So that is basically, in a nutshell, why the company has done so well and tripled its share price in the last, 8 months. Here's my quick summary that I did the day after the site visit. First of all, you see the lay of the land, beautiful country. We took 2 helicopters from Smithers to the NAC camp. We flew over the Grand Isle, so Bell and Grand Isle. So basically, there's 2 open pits sitting on this island in the middle of a lake. Don't think this would be permitted today in the middle of a lake. But they were in the late 60s, early 70s, and they were in production until 1982, when these were shuttered as copper prices tumbled. Remember, there was a recession in the early 80s, copper fell through the floor, and these mines were shut down. And they're on care and maintenance, owned by Glencore Canada currently. But just look at that. They did a pit in the middle of the lake. But these are 2 porphyry centers, right? So they basically made these open pits to mine the ore from these 2 porphyry centers. So that immediately tells you this is a rich host environment for copper porphyry deposits. Now, NAC was a known project. It was drilled in the mid 90s, pretty shallow drilling. And the operator back then just sort of stayed in one little area, but had some decent hits. And in fact, on Nate Smith's post, which I'm going to talk about in a second, he's got some of these hits. So, like, you got 70 meters of over a gram gold, 64 meters of 1.25 grams gold. I mean, this is near surface hits. So starting from 50 meters, starting from 85 meters, those are pretty good, respectable hits. But it wasn't good enough when you had the biggest mining scandal in the world occur in 96, 97, and the sector went into a nuclear winter bear market over the next 5 years. So the last drill program was 96, walked away from it, fade the scene. American Eagle gets this project in 2021, and here we are today, right? So what's old is new again, and there was nothing that the historical operators did that would have said this project is not going to work. There was no failure. It was just the mining sector. Money runs out. It's a very financing, dependent industry, and unless you can finance, you can't drill. You can't even hold on to the project for more than a couple of years, right? A lot of good projects are actually just dropped during bear markets, and that's the opportunity in the sector. All the sharp operators in the junior mining sector are always accumulating and acquiring projects during bear markets. They embrace the bear market because that's where they basically make their best investments. And then during the bull market, they're optioning out, they're selling projects, they're launching companies so they can raise capital at higher valuations to drill them. So this is just my 5 bullet points. Nate's post first, let me just give Nate an acknowledgement. I really appreciate his content. I appreciate his sharing. He's, just to be honest, I mean, I'm an American Eagle bull. He's a bull on another level. I've got probably 15 junior miners in my portfolio. I think he probably has one or two. So he's much more focused than I am, and he's obsessed with American Eagle. I like American Eagle a lot, but I'm not obsessed. He's obsessed, and I appreciate his content and his insights. And basically, he says it all in his post. Like you just read his thing. You don't need to read mine or even watch my video unless you just like to hear me talk. But I'll say that some of my takeaways were: this is a good location. You're not within any human being. You're not within really 30-minute drive of any human beings. Check, right? You're not going to bother anybody by building a mine out here. There's active logging in the area, so their logging companies are cutting down trees right and left. It is pretty heavily forested, as you can see. Um, just Nate's picture here. I mean, it's pretty heavily forested, but there's also pretty wide swaths of logging areas. And that's one of the things that has helped American Eagle is they basically logged this west zone, like west of the Babine Porphyry stock, where American Eagle has been drilling in 2022 and 2023, and now here again in 2024. The camp and the geologists and staff of the camp really stood out to me. So it's extremely clean camp. Food was pretty good. Now I think they bought burgers special for us, so maybe they don't eat that every day. So in fairness, it's probably not that good every day, but very clean kitchen, very modern camp, and everybody was in a good mood, like just a positive attitude. I want to give a shout out to, Neil Prouse, who's the project lead. He's the head geo for American Eagle. I really appreciate him as well. I think he's a leader, very sharp guy. I mean, he lives, he eats, sleeps, and breathes this project, and he seems to be a good leader for his team and at the camp. Um, so American Eagle has a really good guy there, in Neil. Um, and the drilling contractor. So I've been on like 30 site visits. I hear from CEOs all the time about their drill programs, what's working, what's not working with the drilling contractor. There's not a lot of great drilling contractors out there. I hear a lot of problems, a lot of slow progress, slow drill program. Oh, it's behind schedule. The norm is that the drilling is behind schedule. Not at NAC. This contractor, ITL, these guys are top notch. They're drilling some days 90 meters a day. Now, obviously that's probably at the top of the holes, but even at 900 meters depth, they're doing 20 meters a day. That's fantastic. Um, so just it's just good to see things going well, going you know they're beating their budget, they're beating their timelines on the drill program so far, like as of a week ago. And there's definitely some optimism and excitement about the first three holes of the program. Um, so let me oh, here's Nate Brandon, from formerly CEO of Fireweed, Stephen Stewart, chairman of Ore Group and chairman of American Eagle. Um, there's Neil, there's Tony, the CEO of the company, Charlie Gregg. Um, so let's go to Nate's post. So he goes through a lot of big picture things as well, talking about First Nations, talking about the region, talking about environmental permitting. And here's the area of pretty heavy logging. Here's roads that the loggers have built essentially, and there's a drill rig right there. Um, and this road is key for their drilling because they've been drilling up and down this area. He talks about the topography. The nearby lake is not salmon bearing. Key point. Thank God it's not salmon bearing. Um, yeah, and it's not right on the lake. It's not right up to the lake. So you have some space there. Um, okay. So now he talks about basically let's get to the heart of the matter, and I'm done with this video. Three to four goals for this year's program for American Eagle. Expanding the high grade quartz stockwork gold zone in the southwest. So this area around 2201, 2202, and 2308, where you're getting gram plus gold hits um, shallower than 200 meters depth, right? And really, we've seen a lot of copper grades come from the two programs in 2022 and 2023, and a lot of extensive hits of 0.3%, 0.4% copper, but it's the gold kicker that is making this project work, right? It's the gold grades that are really the juice uh, that is making these copper equivalent grades of, 0.8, 0.9, 1% in some holes. Um, so yes, this is key. And he talks about hole 2421, collared as a step out north from 2201. Uh, and yeah, and it's just a vertical hole, probably less than 500 meters depth. So again, they're not going super deep in this quartz stockwork copper gold zone there in the southwest. So that's hole 21. Hole 2419 was drilled towards the southeast into this now what we're calling the IP embayment area. And this one looks very interesting, especially I think Nate talks about 2419. Just the area, the bottom of this hole, the bottom, I don't know, 200 or 300 meters, looks like they got some pretty good chalcopyrite there. So we'll see how that grades. But I think it's going to move up this IP embayment area to a priority target zone. Now, there's some access challenges here where they need to build drill pads. They're going to shoot some more IP here. They're going to work up some better targets in this area. So this may or may not see a drill rig move there next month or even September. I think it's a possibility. I don't think it's a guarantee yet. They need to do some more work there. And as my conversation with Charlie Gregg said, they still got their hands full filling in this area between the north and south zone. They definitely want to put a number of more holes in here where it says open, the red arrows. And then they want to also test for the quote unquote jewel box here in the north to the northwest in an undrilled area up here, right? And also stepping out to the west over here in the quartz stockwork gold zone. So there's a lot of priorities. I mean, just in this area, in this box, there's three main priority areas. The IP embayment zone would be number 4. You got 2 drill rigs. You're drilling pretty deep holes between 500 and 950 meters, all the all depending upon the target. So they got their work cut out for them, right? They've got more than enough holes to fill the rest of this program. I would say, well, so read the rest of Nate's post because it's quite excellent. But I would say there's also a very good possibility that they might exceed the 15,000 meters that they've outlined for this program. And if you just think about the first three holes were all above 900 meters. So let's round that off. That's 3,000 meters. And that was done in 1 month, right? So it's pretty, just if they drill through the end of October, that's another 4 months of drilling. So if they're doing 3,000 meters a month, 4 times 3 is 12. So there's your 15,000 meters right there. If they just drill through the end of October at the current rates. I think there's a chance they might push it into November and maybe slightly exceed that 15,000 meters, but it's unlikely they'll exceed it by much. They might go to 16, 17,000 meters, um, and then call it a season. But basically, American Eagle is going to have drill results coming out probably through the end of February. I would say, and then they'll be getting ready for another drill program in 2025 that will most likely start in May or June, right? Um, and just some comments on Nate talks about how, like, the jewel box is obviously the kicker. It's obviously the pie in the sky. It's obviously the blue sky, and targeting that area on the northwest of the west side of the porphyry stock. So go back to the map up here. It's clearly a priority, but the scale is going to be proven by rock that looks like this stockwork veining, gold quartz stockwork type of rock. And so, holes 18, 21, top of 19 are all critical in proving that up. Um, yeah, well, and again, he's got A and B. I mean, this is just simplifying this. Do they have scale? Do they have grade? Scale and grade. Scale and grade. Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves every single hole that they report this year. Is this confirming scale and proving up grade and continuity of the deposit? So far, American Eagle is checking those boxes consistently. Um, yeah, and we did look at some core. He talks about a visual inspection of hole 2420. Definitely seems like they're pretty optimistic on 2420, but until you get the assays back, because gold is a significant portion of the copper equivalent grades. You just don't know. I mean, yeah, you see some chalcopyrite, but just because you see chalcopyrite in 3 meters of core in a 950-meter hole, I don't think that is very meaningful. Boronite, replacement, along with textures that are indicative of strong hydrothermal activity. We like chalcopyrite and boronite and strong hydrothermal activity, right? So 2420, let's see what the assays are. And then 2422, which wasn't yet in the target sweet spot zone, was collared 100 meters north of 2420. So we went to the rig, but again, it wasn't. So right here. It was in this. They're starting to fill in this gap with hole 2422. So 2420 is super important hole. 2422 is super important hole. Do these holes demonstrate continuity of both grade and scale as they fill in this gap area between the north and south zones. And then IP and Bayman, he talks about this. And Nate says he doesn't think they're going to drill this year, that this area will be a priority for 2025. We'll see. We'll see. And some shout outs, and a shout out to me, Brandon, and video from the site. We were at camp and we shot this interview with some fruit and bottles of water in the background. All right. That's it. Thanks for watching. And again, if you find value in this video, please hit the like and subscribe button and share my Substack and YouTube with your friends. Have a powerful week.